we'd have to pay our workers overtime to do this. We don't have the money. So he said, I'll give them the money. But finally they just said, no, go away.
That's amazing. Michael, stay with us. Back with you in a moment on Coast to Coast AM. What a fast night. Michael, why do you think mainstream science won't even open up the door to look at these possibilities, these theories, these things we've talked about tonight?
Well, it's not as simple as that because, even mainstream science is not monolithic. There is a very influential, powerful group within mainstream science who wants to keep the door closed. That's absolutely true. They don't want to hear what I have to say. They don't want others to hear what I have to say. Now, fortunately, even within mainstream science, there are some who are willing to listen to new ideas. And because of that, I've gotten a lot of invitations to some of the top scientific institutions in the world. I was invited by the Royal Institution in London to make a presentation about forbidden archaeology. I was invited by the Department of Anthropology by the Russian Academy of Sciences. I've been invited by organizations such as the World Archaeological Congress and European Association of Archaeologists to present papers. So it's not that all of them are like that. However, some are, and they're very influential, and their voices are pretty loud, and they have a lot of influence in the scientific world. Why are they so resistant? I think there are a lot of reasons for it. I think one reason is it's just human nature. For example, if I love somebody, and then somebody tells me something bad about the person I love, at first I don't want to believe it.
You're in denial.
I may become angry at the person who tells me, and I think they're like that. They're very much in love with their current theories. They're very much in love with themselves, and if somebody says something that contradicts them or their theories, then they don't want to hear it. They become angry at the person who tells them, and I think that's one reason. I think there are deeper reasons that have to do with power, and it's amazing how this works. But there are different kinds of power in the world. There's military power, there's economic power, there's political power. There's also intellectual power, which is a very subtle power, but a very real one nevertheless. And here's how it works. The goals that we set for ourselves, individually and collectively, are to a large extent determined by the answers that we give to the fundamental questions, who am I and where did I come from? Now, through their monopoly, through their government-enforced monopoly in the education system, the evolutionists have had the power for the past 100 years to dictate to everyone else the answers to those fundamental questions, who am I and where did I come from? And they've been giving very materialistic answers to those questions. So they're telling us you're just a bunch of chemicals, you're an evolved ape, you're just another kind of animal. You're a purely material being, and that's all there is to it. And therefore, I think it's no surprise at all that our whole worldwide human civilization has become quite materialistic, so much so that most people think that the primary purpose of human existence is simply to produce and consume more and more material things.
Gosh, would you have been a great professor? I would have attended all your classes.
But the problem is that process of material production and consumption generates huge amounts of wealth. Some of it goes into the pockets of the scientists who invent the weapons, the medicines, the drugs, the consumer products. More of the money goes into the pockets of the industrialists who manufacture the weapons, the drugs, the medicines, the consumer products. And some of it goes into the pockets of the government officials who tax all this economic activity. So there are powerful forces that would like to see this process go on uninterrupted. Because you notice, if economic activity, if the gross national product goes down even a percentage point, it causes shock waves around the world. Just like after 9/11, people stopped buying. They stopped flying. They stopped purchasing. They just want to sit with their friends and relatives and think, well, what's going on with this world, which I think is a good thing to do. However, because of that drop in economic activity, it caused shockwaves all over the world. We're still suffering from it. The airlines haven't recovered. It's just amazing. So there are powerful interests in this world who would like to see us remain focused totally on this process of material production and consumption. And a key element in that is the scientists who are telling us we are just material beings, and therefore we should be just focusing on that. But what if we had a different set of answers to this fundamental question, who am I and where did we come from? What if in all the schools and universities and all the top scientific institutions, our educators and scientists were telling us, we are beings of pure consciousness, and we should be putting some of our human energy, more of our human energy, into developing the resources of consciousness and spirit, rather than totally focusing on this process of material production and consumption. That they don't want, because less human energy going into that process of material production and consumption means people are going to be less under the control.
That's right.
And that means that's going to be less money, less wealth and power, going to the people it's now going to. So I think that's the real reason. I mean, because, sometimes people think these questions like, what's the antiquity of the human species or whatever, what does it matter whether we think human beings have been around for a few thousand years or a few million years? I mean, aren't these just some sort of abstract intellectual questions for a few scientists or philosophers to argue about in their ivory towers? How does it affect us? But actually, the answers to these questions, who am I and where do I come from, they affect every one of us in a very, very deep way.
Michael, not only are you correct, you're right on, but it's a battle, and I'm not so sure we're going to be able to convince the right people. I mean, not to give up by any means, but I think they're going to fight it.
Well, absolutely, they will. They will fight it. But one thing that gives me hope is most people actually already agree with me. That's a very, very interesting fact. I mean, surveys have been done. Gallup surveys have been done in this country. Only about 10% of the people actually accept the standard theories of human origins, the evolution theory, we came from the apes theory, as the scientists are trying to teach it in the schools and the universities. Only about 10% of the American people actually accept that, which to me is a very positive thing. The same surveys show that, 50 to 60% of the American people, believe in different kinds of paranormal phenomena. They believe they've communicated with dead people. So most people are already on the right side of the question. However, the problem is that those who are supporting the other view, they have inserted themselves into the very influential and controlling positions in society. But I don't think that's something that can go on for a long time. Even people even scientists, for example, who appear to be quite orthodox in their views, it's very interesting. A few years ago, I can't name this scientist, but he invited me to come and speak. He was a geologist. He invited me to come and speak at one of the major universities in one of the central states in the United States, and he invited me to speak to the entire geology department of the university, all the professors and graduate students of geology at that university. And I asked him, why did you invite me to do this? It seems very strange because he's a full professor, he's published textbooks, the scientific articles and all the big scientific publications, appears quite orthodox. I said, how did you learn about me, and why did you invite me to come and speak about forbidden archaeology at your university? He says, well, I heard you on Coast to Coast. So you don't know who's listening.
Oh, we've got all kinds.
Yeah.
All kinds of what is we're going to take phone calls next hour, Mike. A lot of people have been sending me messages. They're just biting at the bit here to get to you, to ask you some things.